A man recently bought a house in New Mexico with a creepy surprise that reminded him of Silence of the Lambs. In New Jersey, a Redditor's haunted basement terrorized the family for years, and in a Victorian flat, a hidden staircase under the stairs led to secret rooms and endless tunnels beneath the couple's feet. These are the creepiest basements ever found in regular houses. Redditor Upper Union 6412 shared a chilling experience from their childhood home in Burlington County, New Jersey, where they lived from 1997 to 2002. After their parents' divorce, they moved into their grandparents' old house with their mom, two older sisters, and dog. The basement quickly became the most terrifying part of the house. The stairs spiraled from the basement up through the first floor to the bedrooms, and most nights they'd hear slow footsteps coming from below. Sometimes the steps stopped outside the oldest sister's room, sometimes near the other bedrooms. My mom did not like to talk about it, but my sisters and I often talked about it the day after, the Redditor wrote. Even their dog refused to go down to the basement. That had lights that turned off randomly. Things would move on their own, and strange noises were always coming from down there. One night, while the kids were playing with walkie-talkies, a voice spoke directly to the older sister, saying it would hurt her, and even called her name. Another incident left Upper Union 6412 terrified, alone with their mom, when they heard loud, heavy footsteps racing from the basement to the second floor. Their bedroom door slammed. There was no one in there, though. The activity seemed worse when the dog wasn't around and focused on the older sister, who sometimes claimed she saw an old man watching her sleep. In 2024, a couple living in a Victorian flat made a seriously creepy discovery under their staircase, and they shared the whole thing on TikTok. The account Dr. Scary posted the footage, showing what looks like a hole in the stairs that leads straight into a hidden staircase. The woman filming is clearly freaked out, saying, "Under the stairs we knocked it through and you can look through the hole and it's an effing staircase." At the bottom of that staircase was a door that opened into a room that looked like it hadn't been touched in decades, but that wasn't all. The room actually led into endless tunnels, chambers, and small rooms that had been sitting right underneath them the whole time. It's not clear if the previous owners even knew about these rooms, because nothing was mentioned when they bought the place. A woman on TikTok, handle Misty Ipong, went viral in 2024 after she and her husband found something strange in the basement of their 200-year-old New York home. It all started when she noticed there was a leak, with water backing up in one corner of the basement. That's when they realized there was more to the space than they thought. In one of her videos, Misty showed what looked like a sealed doorway. Her husband Ken helped her start breaking through. They managed to get through the first layer, but quickly hit a weird obstacle. The reason the hidden room was just completely filled with rocks. Misty started digging into the history of her house though, and that's when it got even creepier. She discovered it may have been connected to the Underground Railroad. "I didn't know that my house had ties to the Underground Railroad," she said. "We looked up Clarkson, and sure enough, 8 minutes away, there is a station." A family in Pennsylvania bought an old house built back in 1901, and for years they thought they knew every corner of it, until they started rewiring the place. The husband was crawling around under the cellar, just checking out some electrical work, when he noticed something odd. He noticed another hole on the wall inside. When he went to check it out, he found the well. Hidden behind that wall was a perfectly round 40-foot deep stone shaft, just sitting there under their feet. The wife later explained how unsettling it was. "Our house was built in 1901, so it's old, but we never imagined there'd be a full well down there." The pictures they shared show crumbling stonework dropping straight into blackness, like something you'd expect to find in a field, not sealed away in a basement. Nobody in the neighborhood even knew the well existed, and there's no record of it in the house's paperwork. Back in 2024, a guy named Kyle, who goes by Kyle Macabre on Reddit, bought a home in New Mexico after his wife landed a job at a nearby university. He said, "The house was in great shape. It was the best I had seen that whole weekend, but there was just one catch. It had a creepy bomb shelter." Now, that would not be a catch for me. I mean, I'd pay extra for something like that, but apparently it was pretty creepy. He described seeing it for the first time, saying, "The first thing I thought of was that movie Barbarian, or that scene in Silence of the Lambs, the part with the rotting corpse in the bathtub." He was so unsettled that he didn't even go down there right away. The shelter was built in the 80s and actually has a pretty legit setup. a large underground room, a shower, a toilet, but when Kyle first peeked in, he was expecting the worst. I was pretty convinced it was going to be super dank and gross down there. I mentally prepared for the worst, maybe a few inches of murky water on the floor or a dirty old mattress. Now, luckily it wasn't that bad, and he figured it would actually make for a pretty solid soundproof music room. July of 2023, a woman named Asa Hierman was home waiting for her husband Rex to get back from work when she suddenly heard pounding on the door and shouts of "FBI, open up." The agents pushed inside and asked, "Do you know why we're here?" Then came the bombshell. "Your husband knows all about the killings on Gilgo Beach." Asa's husband Rex was a Manhattan architect, a father, and now he was being accused of living a double life as the Gilgo Beach serial killer. The killings dated back years. Women like Melissa Bartholomew, Amber Costello, and Megan Waterman all found bound and dumped near the shoreline. A roommate of one victim described her last client as a massive man in glasses who looked like an ogre and drove a dark green Chevy Avalanche. It took over a decade to connect the dots, but in 2022, police secretly followed Rex and grabbed a discarded pizza box that he threw out. The DNA matched hair found on the victims. When investigators raided his home, the basement was the most chilling part. Behind a heavy steel door, they found 279 firearms, unsettling searches on a computer related to torment methods and CP, documents on how to take a life without leaving a trace. Detectives believe this is where Rex carried out his gruesome crimes, a cluttered, hidden basement now known as the House of Horrors. Imagine finding out the last person who owned your home never really left. Back in 2018, a guy in Jiangsu, China, bought what seemed like the perfect home. For 7 years, he and his family are living it up, no problems. But then one day, while cleaning up, he notices a strange door tucked away behind the staircase. He opens it, only to find an entire basement that he never knew existed. And it's got everything and more. Lights, ventilation, even a small bar. Lee, the new homeowner, was immediately creeped out. Someone was spending a lot of time down here, and he was right. Turns out, the previous owner had been secretly hanging out down there. When Lee confronted her, she didn't even deny it. She told him flat out, "I sold you the house, but I never said the basement was included." She also said, "If the basement belongs to you, where am I supposed to relax in my free time?" The final boss of gaslighting right here. Nobody knows exactly how she was sneaking in and out, maybe with a spare key, maybe through a door that led to the parking garage. Either way, Lee took her to court and the judge sided with him, forcing her to pay compensation. A homeowner in Burlington County, New Jersey got people talking after finding what looks like a hidden dungeon in his basement. He shared pictures on Reddit with the caption, "What is this creepy room in my basement?" And the internet immediately started throwing out theories. The owner, who's been living there since 2022, said he was never given a straight answer about the space, saying, "We've gone with the assumption that it was going to be a wine cellar that was never finished, but that thought lingers in our minds. What's under those rocks? We also don't really want to know, if I'm being honest." End quote. The door leading in is a refrigerator-style metal door with a manufacturer's label, and as the owner put it, the general look and feel of a dungeon or something sinister seems to naturally and very quickly take over anyone's mind who I've shown it to. Imagine moving back into the house you grew up in and discovering bones buried beneath the floor, and then realizing that they belong to your missing father. That's what happened to Michael Carroll in New York. His dad, George Carroll, disappeared in 1961 when Mike was less than a year old. Over the years, his mother's story kept changing. First, he pulled the classic leaving for cigarettes, but just never coming back. Then she said he went to take out the trash and never came back. At one point, she claimed that he left for a woman he met during the Korean War. After his mom passed away in 1998, Mike bought her home and started investigating. He also worked with psychics, one of whom said, "I feel energy here," pointing to the basement. Years later, ground-penetrating radar confirmed there was something buried 6 feet under the home. Then on Halloween, drilling through the basement floor with his sons, Mike made the chilling discovery: human bones. Police later confirmed the remains were his father's, who died from blunt force trauma. Mike had a mix of emotions, saying, "We found him, but now it opens another bag of worms as far as 1,000 questions." Even after the discovery, He hasn't revealed who he suspects might be responsible, leaving the mystery unsolved after more than 60 years. Finally, we have a story from Reddit user JLanger23, who writes, "When I was about 12, my mother's friend from church asked her and others to come pray over his house in the middle of the city. He told him since he had moved in, his wife's personality had changed. He was seeing weird shadows and stuff. Things were affecting his little daughter. He also had a storm cellar that he had never opened because he got a very evil feeling from it. My mom took me to the house as I didn't have anywhere else to go. The house had an unsettling feeling, but the creepiest thing off the bat was the graffiti in the garage and on the side of it. It looked like voodoo or ritual type symbols, and I remember the eye symbol specifically. After my mom's friends prayed around the home for a bit, and they all decided to open the storm cellar together. Keep in mind, the man had never touched it. When they opened it, I was horrified by what I saw. There were dozens of dried out dead animals down there, including cats, chickens, and rabbits. Their bodies were strewn out everywhere. It was quite apparent that someone had been doing some messed up ritual stuff in the house." All that said, I've been your host, James, and I will catch you, yes, you specifically, in the basement.